Once upon a time, there was a small hut in a big forest. A kind couple lived in that house with their little daughter. The girl's mother was a very skilled seamstress. One day, she sewed a cape and a beautiful red shawl for her daughter, and she wore them every day. For this reason, from that day on, all the people called her Little Riding Hood. One day her mother called her and said, "My dear girl, I want to ask you to take this homemade bread with these butters and fruit cake to your grandmother." Little Riding Hood said, "I would be very happy, mother, but I haven't seen grandma for a long time. I'm afraid I forgot where his house is and what it looks like." The mother replied, "My dear girl, I am sure that if you walk, you will remember." The Little Riding Hood walked towards the forest. She was holding a wicker basket in which he had placed grandmother's food and had a red cloth on it. She sang softly as she skips along the forest path and watched the world go by. A wild wolf heard the sweet song of Little Riding Hood. The wolf was an evil and greedy creature, and he wanted to eat the Little Riding Hood for breakfast. But he did not dare to do this, because a woodcutter was working with his dog nearby. But the wolf could not stop himself at all, because his nature did not allow him to do so. So the wolf, in order not to get into trouble, instead of attacking Little Riding Hood, slowly and solemnly went towards her and said, "Hello, Little Red Riding Hood. Where are you going in this beautiful and pleasant morning?" Little Riding Hood answered, "I am going to visit my grandmother to buy her bread, butter, and fruit cake." The wolf asked, "Where does your grandmother live, sweet girl?" She replied, "In the middle of the forest." The wolf said in a low voice, "Ah, yes, I know that house, but I have to go now. Goodbye, little girl. Take very good care of yourself. The forest is too dangerous for a little girl like you." Before Little Red Riding Hood had time to answer the wolf, he was gone. Little Riding Hood was in no hurry. She loved the forest and could play there alone for hours. She ran after butterflies and looked at squirrels. She saw a rabbit jumping through the ferns and a bee drinking the nectar of wild flowers. She even came across a woodcutter who was cutting tree stumps. The woodcutter kindly said, "Where are you going, lonely Little Riding Hood?" Little Riding Hood answered, "I am going to see my grandmother, but now I have to hurry because I might be late." While Little Red Riding Hood was playing, the mischievous wolf ran as far as he could to the middle of the forest and found his grandmother's house. Grandma lived alone. She was extremely weak and rarely got out of bed, and that day he was lying in her bed like always. Knock, knock, knock. The old woman asked, "Who knocks at the door?" The wolf said while trying to imitate the voice of Little Riding Hood, "I am Little Riding Hood, grandmother." Grandma said, "Come in, baby, pull the latch and open the door." The wolf opened the door and entered. You can imagine how shocked the grandmother was when she saw the wolf standing in front of her. She froze in fear, and moments later, the hungry wild wolf ate Grandma in one bite. But the wolf was not satisfied yet. He liked to taste Little Riding Hood, so he put on the clothes of the grandmother, lay down on the bed, and waited for Little Riding Hood. After an hour or so, Little Red Riding Hood arrived at Grandma's house. He went to the door and knocked. Knock, knock, knock. The wolf said, "Come in, baby, pull the latch and open the door." Little Red Riding Hood thought to herself, I don't remember that grandmother's voice was so thick. But when she entered the house, she saw her grandmother lying on her bed as usual. Little Riding Hood said, Grandma, my mother sent me to bring you this delicious bread and butter and fruit cake. The wolf said, Oh, how kind you are, my girl. Come here and give me a big kiss. Little Riding Hood, who, if you remember, had not seen her grandmother for a long time, approached the bed. Little Riding Hood said, Grandma, what a big nose you have. Because this way I can better understand your good smell, my dear. And Grandma, what big ears you have, so that I can hear your voice better, my dear. And what big eyes you have, Grandmother. This way I can see your beautiful face better, my dear. Little Riding Hood said, Oh, Big Mom, what sharp and big teeth you have, the wolf whispered. Because this way I can eat you more easily. The wolf couldn't wait any longer and attacked the Little Riding Hood from the bed. Just at that moment, the door opened with a loud noise. The woodcutter's dog jumped in and attacked the wolf. The wolf fell to the ground and whimpered as he stepped back. A few seconds later, the woodcutter man arrived, took his huge axe above his head, and brought it down with a loud thud. With a head kick, the wild wolf broke away from the tension. Oh, thank you, kind woodcutter. How did you know the wolf was here and I was in danger? The woodcutter said. Well, I recently saw this wild wolf lurking in the forest. Today I saw you alone and I wanted to make sure that you will be safe. That's why I came looking for you. My dog smelled the wolf, so we quickly ran to this house. Little Riding Hood said, Oh, how brave and clever you are, dear woodcutter. I thank you again. The woodcutter went home with Little Riding Hood and explained the bad events to her parents. They were very grateful to the woodcutter and his dog for saving their daughter from the wild wolf.